Hi guys, doing this is Anthony Ganji, host of Tier Talk. Actually doing this from my profile page because I posted something and it got a response, and then I started getting messages about concerns that unfortunately are facing a lot of correctional facilities. So I want to bring this concern out there, and hopefully it gets out there. The video gets spread. So I'm gonna do it for my profile page, and I'll go ahead and share the video to my Tier Talk page. But we have a concern in corrections, and I think it needs to be addressed, and we dealt with it at the show today. We mentioned it briefly, and it's a serious concern, and it talks about what the officers are equipped with. And unfortunately, it's a question that's not being asked because people make assumptions that are logical, that all correctional officers are properly equipped, because you figure that's elementary, that's 101. And by all means, someone that makes that assumption, it should make sense. You know, they should automatically assume that correctional officers, like any other law enforcement officer, has the proper tools to de-escalate a situation and maintain control. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I'm getting videos right now that really want me to mention the issue, so I'm going to go ahead and do it, and hopefully it gets shared out. I did a show today with my partner Nick, and we discussed some really good topics. And the topic that came up again towards the end was about a officer that was lost to us in Arkansas, Miller County Detention Center. Her name was Correctional Officer Lisa Modine. Okay, now we'll deal with the fact that there's myths about female officers working in corrections, and again, we mentioned that people don't know the balance that females create in corrections, and that's something that needs to get out there. But again, that's for another time. But it is true. Anybody that questions the need for a female correctional officer, why don't you walk into a facility for one day and you'll see the need. It's funny how you question things from afar. But just to finish my train of thought before I lose it, I'm OCD, so sometimes my thoughts go back and forth. The officer that was lost to us, now again, I got emails or inboxes from some of the frontline staff that worked at Miller County Corrections Detention Center, and again, brave men and women who work in corrections, but definitely just want to say I'm sorry for the loss to Miller County Detention Center. But one of the concerns that they mentioned, I did not know, and it wasn't mentioned in any of the articles that I read, and again, I hope it's not true, but it's coming from some frontline professionals, so unfortunately I have a feeling this may be true, is that the officers weren't equipped to protect themselves. And what I mean by equipped, I mean proper training for hand-to-hand combat, if need be. And then also just tools like OC, a baton, taser, some type of method or some type of tool that they can use to regain control. And that's something that should be given to all correctional officers. Vest. I mean, the list goes on. And the thing is, I don't think it gets out there that they weren't equipped. And the reason why I don't think it gets out there is because people automatically assume, logically, which they should, that these officers are equipped. So the question's not asked because it's simple, elementary. But I'm going to shock the public right now. I'm going to tell you a secret about corrections that not a lot of people know. So this goes out to you guys. Here's a big secret. There's a lot of states, a lot of facilities out there that don't equip officers with anything. And they don't train the officers like they should be. And that's a problem. That's a major problem. Because the officers don't have the tools to de-escalate a situation. And when it comes to use of force, officers need to have the option to choose what force is needed and what tool is best equipped to handle the situation. And they're not given those tools. And therefore, they can't handle the situation because they don't have the proper means to do it. They're not properly equipped. So when you have an officer like the hero, Lisa Modine, Mauldin, who is a hero, who is a law enforcement professional, dedicated person to the badge. Her job was to protect the public, which she did. Protect the inmates, which she did. She lost her life. Okay, she lost her life in her service to the public. And I'm hoping this is not the case, but this could have been prevented maybe if she had the proper tools to protect herself, to de-escalate the situation. And I'm hearing something slightly different. And it bothers me because she had the tools that could have been prevented. And the problem is with corrections is we're reactionary. But in corrections you can't be, because the "I told you so" comes with such a harsh penalty. I told you so after a life gets lost. At that point, it just becomes sad. It really does. The "I told you so" only comes because of something that we failed to do. And that's sad, because our number one job is to protect the protectors. Give them the means to do their job effectively. Give them the means to carry out their duty, their oath of office, to protect the public. If we don't equip them with these means, they can't do the job, and the integrity of the institution, the safety of the population, the safety of the officers, the safety of the staff, the safety of the volunteers, the list goes on, is in jeopardy because of a simple necessity, of an elementary necessity. And I say it's elementary because it's automatically assumed by many, the public, that these officers are properly equipped. And then when you tell people they're not, their mouth is open and they're in complete shock. But my concern is that when they don't know, and as mentioned before, they don't know to ask these questions. So it gets avoided. And then the issue doesn't get fixed. It doesn't get fixed, people. It gets ignored because nobody knows that there's an issue to begin with. If we're out to help our brothers and sisters, and if we want to make sure that no loss goes in vain, we need to show people the honest picture of corrections. Guys, we're bleeding. I've said this multiple times before. We're bleeding from the inside out. And the problem is nobody knows what to do to fix it because we hide the wound. The upper management hides the wound. They don't expose it. For whatever reason, vanity's sake. Most likely it's probably something related to vanity. But the problem is your vanity is getting officers killed. I think if the public really knew that the facilities were vulnerable and they kind of got a true look at what it's like to work inside a correctional facility as best as we could show them, there would be some that know that there's an issue and know that it has to be addressed. But they have to know that there's an issue. And that's why we have people that are appointed that lead us. The people that are appointed, that are in a position to make changes, they need to be truthful. Don't worry about what you're planning on being tomorrow because you're not there yet. You need to worry about today. Where are you at now? And that worry about today deals with the people that you are above, your subordinates, the front line, the people that you're meant to protect. But the problem with appointed people or appointed positions is they're more worried about political maneuvers and pressures from the public. And then when they worry about that, they ignore the dangers from what the front line faces. They ignore the dangerous situations that the front line are in. I would like to see a balance. If you want to put a political person on top, that's fine. But have it balanced out with a civil service person that has just as much power and can speak his mind without being afraid of any form of repercussion. Who's not politically motivated. Who went through the ranks and understands what's needed on the front line. Guys, we lost an officer. And I have a feeling that if we lost the officer because that officer wasn't equipped, it's not just the inmate that's responsible for that officer's death. And I think that if this officer is to not die in vain, we have to expose a serious problem with corrections on a national level. And that problem is that we're not protecting the front line. And we're leaving them vulnerable and then washing our hands of them. And I just at the point where that's just unacceptable. And then when people automatically make assumptions based on logic, I'm telling you guys, in our world, you don't know. And that assumption that what you think is based on logic, it's not logic in our world. So come talk to the front line. Don't assume no more about corrections. Because even if you want to help, your assumptions are going to be wrong, and you're not going to know to ask the right questions. And it's the questions that need to be asked. So again, I just put this out there just to try to see if, gets to the right person that looks at the video and says, hey, we should ask that. Was the officer equipped? Because in some cases, when you don't know about our world, you don't know what questions to ask. But if you know about our world, or you have somebody from the inside that's telling you about our world, then you know exactly what questions need to be brought up and what questions need to be answered. Nationally, guys, our officers are not properly equipped. They have dated equipment, if anything, or they have no equipment. And we're losing officers left and right in things that could have been prevented. It's got to stop. All right, guys, as always, Anthony Ganji, Tier Talk, co-host Nick Kane. It's a great conversation that we had. It's a needed conversation. And let's stick together, guys, because together we can move mountains. Individually, we just move pebbles. But I guarantee you guys, we don't whisper no more. And we will create that venue on my Tier Talk page to voice our concerns. And anytime someone goes to say something, be careful, because we're going to contest it. And your myths and everything, they won't stand a chance. Because when we come at you as one collective unit, when corrections comes at you as a united family, we bring hell with us. So you better think twice before you air some bullshit about what we do and who we are. And you better think twice before you decide not to protect our officers who are law enforcement professionals. Because we're part of a movement now, guys. And that movement's to be recognized as law enforcement officers on a national level. And I will devote my life to that. I promise. All right, guys. Love you guys. Stay safe. It's always a pleasure.